In today's episode of Welding and Wheeling, we trade this four-wheeler for this little ATC 90, which we then trade for a 1977 Honda FL250. So what is this thing? This is a 1977 Honda FL250, or better known as an Odyssey. Now, 1977 is kind of a special year because it's supposed to be yellow, which you can see poking through on this belly pan here. Sadly, someone painted over that and changed the fenders out, but we could always keep our eye out for a good yellow set. So this thing is kind of a basket case, as in the motor is pulled out of it, which I do have. I have, I think, 95% of the parts, I hope, to put this thing back together. But you can see the CVT setup, the fuel tank, a throttle cable, coil, engine mount, all those things are in there. So we have most of the good things. All four tires are in pretty good shape. And overall, I mean, it's not like it sits flat on the ground. It doesn't seem completely sacked out. It's definitely not beautiful, but I think I did an okay trade. It's hard to get rid of the ATC 90 because it ran and drove and did its thing, but if I can get this thing going, and I do have most of the parts without dumping a ton of money into this thing, I'll end up with a much more valuable machine than that ATC, and I can always replace that ATC a lot easier than I can find another Honda Odyssey. So that's the idea. I'm going to hop right into what's going on with the motor. All right, so this is a 250 cc two-stroke. I was told it was a fresh rebuild. Now looking in the side there, you can see the piston looks pretty good. We have TB04E down here. I don't know what that means. Yeah, pretty complete looking engine. Biggest thing that we need to do to it is set the points and everything back up underneath the flywheel and reinstall the flywheel. So let's do that. All right, we got it set on the side of the table here. Thankfully, that flywheel nut's on here, so we don't have to figure out which one that is. Let's dig through my parts and see if I can find the points set up. All right, we got our aluminum plate here with the points and coils set up. And we have two of the three screws that we need here. Let's get this dropped in. Looks like our wires are supposed to go through there. Someone really mangled the head of these screws. But we got our biggest bit, our Milwaukee screwdriver here, and that's taking care of it. I'm gonna have to find a third. I'm just gonna keep an eye out in the pile. Hopefully it pops up, but if not, I'll have to order that, which will be a treat to find. Okay. That's tight. We got our two wires poking through the side. So we should be good to drop the flywheel on now. We got one washer and the nut. Cool. All right. That's probably never coming off now. All right, the recoil start's in bad shape. We're missing a whole tab here. I don't feel like breaking out the welder right now, so we're gonna leave this off and take care of that later. And I don't wanna install it and use it like this because you'll just stress these out even more. I mean, this thing's pretty cracked up. So we can pull it with a rope for the first time like this for now. All right, actually I had to basically put this vertical up because you can see where the little nudge is for the carb. So we'll pop the carb in there, fits nicely. We'll probably end up having to pull it before it goes in the chassis just for clearance, so we'll leave that be. And I think we're done. I checked the clutch bolts, pulled the plug out and cleaned it. I do want to check these head bolts once, but I think the engine is ready to go. And there's no gearbox on these things. There's no oil to change. They're really simple creatures, which is awesome. Got to turn the camera on, but these two bolts are just a smudge loose, so I'm glad we checked those. Yeah, let's turn it over to the Odyssey. All right, so in my baggie of goodies, I have these two little puck things, which I think are the front motor mounts. We're gonna find out though. All right, we'll get the engine cradle set in there. So this rear mount's definitely original. The front mounts, I don't think are original, but I can maybe get them to work. I don't know. I'll probably just end up ordering the correct ones and being done with it. So that's one issue. So while I'm kind of deciding what to do there, I'm gonna hop over here to the fuel system. So I pulled the cage off, which was simple, but someone had welded it to it in a couple places, a real pain in the neck. Got that off so I could pull the tank out, and I drained that, and it actually looks really good inside. So I'm gonna go ahead and redo these fuel lines, and we'll get this buttoned up. Probably should replace the fuel pump and the petcock, but we'll just see if these still work. I don't have the parts anyway today to repair them. So anywho, let's get to replacing this old junk line. Okay, I didn't have a new filter, so I'll have to wait for one, so I just put that one back in for now. All right, it's all buttoned up, ready to go back in. All right, we got the carb bowl popped off here. There was no fuel in it, so it means it sat for quite some time, or they drained it beforehand. There is some crustiness in it, but nothing too horrible. These are nice carburetors because you can pull this bottom of the bowl off and change your jetting, which is really handy. It is the original Kean, and in decent enough shape. So I'll go ahead and just pop it apart real quick, throw it some carb dip, clean it all up. It probably would have ran like this, but we got it apart this far, we might as well clean the carburetor. So got our little Kean carburetor there. You can actually see my dog through it. Hi, Piggy. Yeah, good dog. Anyway, got the Kean all back together. It went together pretty nicely, except for I think I'm missing an idler adjustment screw, or a mixture screw. That would be a mixture screw. I don't remember pulling it out of there, so I think I'm missing that. Now, I just realized that as soon as I turned the video on. We'll look for that. I think I might be missing it, though. Man, that really derails everything I was going to do. I was getting ready to slap this back on and try and start this thing. Let me see if I have that. All right, well, we got our air box figured out where that goes, right there. We do need a new element for the inside, so we have to order that. I cannot find that metering screw anywhere. So the guy I got this thing from gave me this box of parts, and then those pile of baggies. So far, I haven't found a single part in any one of those baggies that actually corresponds to this machine or really any Odysseys. So I think he just threw that in to make me feel like I had all the parts. Not sure. The guy seemed very nice. He didn't take this thing apart, so I can't blame him. Maybe he was given the wrong thing. So even this stuff, I mean, there's way more stuff here than this thing actually needs. So I'm dealing with a basket case that has a million extra parts with it, so it's kind of hard to decide what goes to what. So we're missing the metering screw. We need a new air filter element. And I would fire it up without a metering screw if it was a 4-stroke, but being a 2-stroke, this thing could lean out and blow up or take off. I don't want to deal with that. I'll just order and wait for the right part. So we're kind of at a stall again. I did install the belt, which you guys didn't see. I ordered that online. And we're also waiting on our motor mounts, which should be in the mail today. And we still need an exhaust. That's the big thing I'm missing for this thing. Now I do have down in the bottom here a little DT100. Let me turn the light on. There's a little Atex patiently waiting for its turn to be revitalized, among many other machines down here that are waiting for their turn. So I have this little, actually it's an MX100, I'm sorry. MX100 Yamaha that I have some plans with that do not require this thing to have an exhaust. I don't know where the exhaust system went. I had it somewhere. Ooh, there is a carb there. I wonder if I can steal a metering screw out of here. Probably not. Worth a shot though. Anyway, somewhere around here I have the exhaust for this thing. Found it. I was thinking I could maybe use this, but it doesn't have an expansion chamber on it, even though it is a 2-stroke. And the Odyssey original exhaust does have an expansion chamber, so I don't think that's going to work like I was hoping. So I do need to find the original exhaust somewhere. We got some goodies in the mail from odyssey.com. We have 2 brand new motor mounts. I really should have bought 3, but I cheaped out. That'll come back to bite me. Sweet card. All right. Our engine is now firmly attached with those 2 brand new mounts from Odd ATV, which seems like a pretty good website. Never used them before. So we are using the original rear one. Really should have replaced that, but this is a low budget operation. So next thing we need to do is we have our welder plugged into the house over there. So that means we're gonna start welding stuff. So I'd like to fix this area that I mangled down here. And most importantly, where is it? There it is. We need to fix our pull start. There's a big old Grand Canyon sized crack there, and the little mounting tab's broken off. So we need to remake that and probably try and fix some of these cracks. This thing's pretty hashed, but we should be able to get a little bit of life out of it, I think. These are pretty expensive to buy on eBay, so I don't want to do that. So when you're fabricating stuff, you want to make sure you have the proper shop attire. At least I got some sweet safety glasses. Bought these for $1 at a surplus store. You also want to get as many metal shavings in your coffee cup as possible. It's good. And you want to keep your work secure. Alright, attempt 2. Got the grinder running on autopilot here. Really like when you squeeze them like this. Alright, well our fit up is not great looking yet, but I'm hoping we can tack this on here and then see if that's even going to provide us the space we need. Then once it's welded up, we'll actually shape it so it looks better. 1, 2, 3. It's a lot better than 2. This is actually a passing grade now, 100%. So got her all welded up there. Actually, I should probably weld the backside for longevity, but it looks repaired, and that's okay. It's on the bottom. Who cares? I'm going to weld that backside up actually real quick, and then we're going to throw it on there. Also fix some of the cracks. Just threw some tacks at it. Nothing too crazy. This thing's pretty junky anyway. As long as it works, that's all I care about. As you can tell, this is not the most visually appealing Honda Odyssey out there, or all original. But it's mine, and that's all that matters. Well, I thought we had success. It goes on there, but it doesn't engage the flywheel. So I also did just answer this question finally. I was wondering what the heck this thing is. And that is, you route your little doodadicle through there, and then it's much easier to pull. So that's cool. We're going to have to pop that off again and figure out why those teeth aren't engaging with the flywheel. All right, so the pull start does work now. You just only get one pull because the rope's too short. I don't feel like dealing with that rope right now. It's gonna be a pain in my neck. We'll save that for another day. But one thing I did do was hook up our wiring, which is just a single wire from the points on up to the coil. And then we got our plug wire and our plug sitting here. Let's see if we have spark. Ooh, we have spark. Our basket case is really coming together. I am waiting for the head to exhaust adapter in the mail as well. So the guy I got this from thinks he has the exhaust. He definitely had it when we proposed to do the trade. And somewhere either I lost it, which I don't think I did, or he lost it and didn't bring it with him. One of us has the exhaust somewhere, so it exists. So I'm hesitant to go spend $200 on eBay to get one when this one is supposed to exist somewhere. So that's our biggest holdup. Great success. I pointed this out yesterday and I didn't think it would actually work because this is only a 100cc bike. But the 100cc bike carb had the perfect adjuster we needed. I don't know if it's going to work right, but it at least screws in there, so sick. Now we just need to do this magical exhaust this guy's supposed to come up with, hopefully. I found an exhaust and some more stuff. So we're just outside of Waterloo, Iowa today, and I bought another Odyssey, as well as a Yamaha jet ski. That's for a project I've thought about for years. We won't even probably talk about it in this video really, but hopefully this winter's project. So this is another 1977 Honda Odyssey. It is rather complete. And most importantly, it's got a muffler that's in good shape. So I paid $300 for the Odyssey. I could have very easily spent $150 on a muffler online plus shipping. So I'm either going to keep this chassis and do something else with it, sell the complete chassis, or part it out, and I should come out ahead with an exhaust. So yeah, beautiful day out here. Beautiful little stream I stopped by. So yeah, I'm gonna make it home at this load. I've already done about 30 minutes of driving. It's pretty good. We strapped the hell out of it. It's got like 8 straps going across it. It just looks really sketchy. So I'm gonna get to moving and get on home and figure out how to unload this pile of garbage. Well, it's raining now, but we got our pile of garbage unloaded from the truck. So really, that auto crane comes in clutch all the time. We wrap one strap around the front of the hull here and caught the winch point, and then went ahead and wrapped a strap between those 2 outlets back there, and it picked it right off there, no problem. So I'm not going to talk anymore about this thing in this video. This is for a project this winter, which I will definitely have on the channel, so just keep an eye out for that. We will be using the motor and a bunch of parts out of this thing to build a aluminum jet boat. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely keep an eye out for that video. But the reason you guys are here is for Honda Odysseys. So here is the other one. Like I said, $300, had to drive an hour and a half for it. I think in the long run, if I part this thing out, I should be able to make my money back, no problem, and get that exhaust and some other parts out of the deal. So the story on this one was that the guy rebuilt it in high school for a school project. It did run and work, but the main issue was the recoil start was messed up. He couldn't find the parts for it and let it sit. That thing's now trashed, but we can save that housing because it's better than mine, I think. So that I will definitely keep. The engine does seem to be locked up now, but hopefully I won't need that engine. Maybe I can break it free. I haven't completely decided on the fate of this thing. I don't need that many parts off of it. I could leave it pretty complete and we could build something else out of this, or build another Odyssey if we wanted. What else? So we already did pull the exhaust off of this. I did that a few minutes ago. That's in really good shape, thankfully. This cage seems to be a little bit better too. We might save that. We'll definitely save it. We might swap it out. One thing I thought was really interesting. So I think this one is a 77, just like my other one. It used to be yellow. They built these custom fenders for it, which actually, I don't really mind them. They're not as cool as the original fenders, but they're decent. But the thing I thought was cool is this fuel tank. I thought it was factory for a second, but it's just an old Cub Cadet tank. And they modified the original mounts, and I mean, it works really well in there. It's like, looks almost factory. So at a minimum, we'll save that for a spare. My original seems to be working fine. We do have a good airbox assembly here. All the clutch and brakes is still there. The carb is still on there, which is good because we can steal that proper needle and seat, or that adjustment needle out of it. The belt guard we need, and our brakes on the other one seem a little funky. So there's a ton of parts on here. We should have enough parts to get mine going now, no problem. Knock on wood. Well, I decided to pull all the things off of it that I know I need as of right now, including the carburetor, which tells a sad tale. This thing has ingested a lot of water over the years, and mouse poop and pee. The airbox was just chocked full of stuff. Still in good shape though, so that's good because these are nice. But yeah. So I don't think we're bringing this Odyssey back without a lot of money invested. The air boots just ripped right off. Thankfully, the air filter side one's still good, but the one going to the engine had been repaired long ago. That carburetor would take a fair amount of work to bring it back. Thankfully, it does have the jet that we need. Hopefully, we can get that out. Now, the engine definitely got some water down into the carb like I just showed. But looking in from the exhaust side, the guy definitely was not lying about fresh rebuilding it. So I filled the cylinder up with some penetrating oil. We're gonna try and get it broken free just so I know I have a good backup engine. These things are stupid simple to rebuild. If I wanted to pop it apart, clean it up, and hopefully not hone it, maybe have to hone it a little bit, put a bigger piston in it, and have a spare engine, or sell this as a good engine. Not too worried about it. Yeah, so I think the Odyssey is definitely not going to be coming back with that engine, at least. I don't know. We'll see. It would take a lot of work. Let's just say that. So I got all the parts I need. Now let's go into the garage and get to work. All right, so I didn't really show it well, but the original cage on my Odyssey had some creative fabrication going on, which was basically welding these uprights to the bottom part of the cage, which is supposed to be a bolt-together connection. So I decided to do my best cutting and grinding and get back to what it originally is supposed to be by using the parts off the Parts Odyssey, since I have it now. So after a significant amount of archaeological digging, we got back down to the original tabs. And they do still have weld nuts on them. I would assume the threads are no good now, but we could attempt to use them, but I'll probably end up just drilling straight through, and we'll do a through bolt, so that's good. So we'll throw this part of the cage back in. I do have one more thing to do first, and that is cut out some pieces to repair this area. So we're just gonna put plates on top of that, welded in, and gotta weld back up this area, pull out a broken nut, and just try and make this all original and nice again. All right, well, we welded a nut to this broken off guy. And man, there is no better feeling than a broken off bolt backing its way back out of the hole. Bam, got it out. So that was a little tiny hardware 8mm bolt. So my go-to is, this was actually below flush, kind of like that guy. So I welded the washer to it first and just kind of stacked up a bunch of tacks on the broken off stud and then weld the washer to it. That gives you a much more surface area to weld the nut to. I just use this square nut just because I've got a bunch of these things, but really any nut will work as long as it's nice and clean. And just slowly, I also hit it with some penetrating oil while it was still hot. And yeah, backed right out of there, so that's sweet. Well, my apologies, but I got a little ahead of myself. So I welded them all in. You can't even tell from up here that it's really been repaired. So I consider that a really good success. We also have the exhaust off the other one mounted up, which went in very nicely. I like the gold heat shield on it. So all that's done. We now have our tabs. These were disgusting with that piece of crappy square tube welded on there. So all that's cut away now, and the roll cage is completely back to stock except for this. And I thought about cutting it out, but I'm just gonna leave it. Add some extra bracing. Doesn't look too bad. Why not, you know? So the only other thing I did was I restrung the pull cord. I didn't know how to do that, so I watched a YouTube video. It's just like all the others, actually, when I got in there. For some reason, I thought it was going to be complicated, but that's the only thing that I didn't show. I just kind of got into working and forgot to stop and video it all. So we are now officially ready to go ahead and see if this thing will fire up. We threw some fuel in it, and the only other thing I did was I took a syringe full of 2-stroke and I backfilled the pump, and I filled the bowl in the carburetor and squirted some down the cylinder to lube that cylinder up while we pull on it. So I'm gonna get you guys set up on the on the tripod and see if this thing will fire off, hopefully. I don't know if the choke's on or off right now, I can't tell. All right, so I am suspecting an issue is happening. Well, two things. First off, swapped out the handle to this old snowblower one instead of that one, because that one hurts my old hand after pulling this thing. This thing is effectively pulling over a 250 2-stroke dirt bike engine, so it's got some kick. But down there in the filter, you guys can't see it, but the fuel level's sitting probably right where the level of the tank is. It's no more, no less. So I suspect our fuel pump is dead. So to get around that for today, we're just gonna hook up a auxiliary tank above and gravity feed that carburetor and figure out a replacement fuel pump, or pull the one off the other one, which is probably just as bad. But for now, we're gonna gravity feed it. All right, got our semi-permanent tank hooked up there. Should work all right, I think. Got some fuel in it, and the float's not sinking, so that's good. Let's give her another couple yanks. All right, hopefully this is the one. Okay. Thought the spark plug wasn't all the way installed, geez. All right, so we're not getting any starting. We're getting a whole lot of backfiring. So to me, that indicates a timing issue. So we're gonna get the pull start pulled off here. We're gonna check the woodruff key in the flywheel, make sure that is not sheared or somehow worn out. And then if that's not the problem, hopefully I have a flywheel puller to get this flywheel off, and we can check, see what's going on with the points, maybe reset those and go from there. All right, well, I like to admit my mistakes on camera here, and I made one that actually worked out really well. I thought I tightened this nut, but I guess I did not, because it was super loose. So I'm kind of glad it didn't fire up and that didn't come off and destroy the flywheel and the pull start and all that. So we got lucky. That also meant that the flywheel came right off. Now the woodruff key seems to be in decent shape. It's wedged down in there, so I'm not going to fight with it. So that is in good shape. Our mechanical advance seems to be in good shape, so that leads me to believe that something is wrong with the points. So we'll go ahead and readjust them and give her another shot, I guess. All right, so while I was here, I figured I'd pop the flywheel off the other one, which I did end up having a puller. That was an M27-1 with a left-hand thread. So I popped the old flywheel off the other Odyssey, and it's pretty funky. Really needs cleaned up, but I noticed it was slightly different. So you'll see this one has like 4 individual place magnets, and this one is like still 4 individual magnets in there, but there's like this plastic cap on it. And I think these are both the same year, so it's kind of weird to me. But maybe this one's just missing the plastic cap, I don't know. Oh, actually the mechanical advance stuff looks a little different as well, maybe, I don't know. But we got that off, and we stole one of those little Phillips head specialty screws. So now we have all 3 in the good Odyssey. So I'm gonna set the point gap and then put it back together. Okay, well, I checked and reset the point gap. It was a little tight, but I don't think that was our issue. I think the issue could have been, I think you can see it right now, there's that little mark on this guy. So this is the cam that engages the points, and you pull this out of there, you set it in there, and you roll it around until your points are open enough. And that's how you can set your points with the flywheel off. I think that point lines up with the woodruff key, and there is quite the possibility that I had it on 180 degrees out, which would make sense why this thing was all backfiring and stuff. So I'm really hoping that was an issue and it was just a simple error on my part. But we're going to jam it back together and see what is what. Cross your fingers that it was just that stupid little error. I don't know. We'll find out. Got it all back together, otherwise we didn't change anything. Let's see what happens. Hell yeah! Yes! Oh, what was that? Oh, I'm such an idiot. Alright, pay attention to marks when you put stuff back together. Gee, me. We got a running odyssey, sort of. Sweet. Oh, I love that feeling of bringing something back. We're not out of the woods yet, though. We still have to figure out a better throttle cable, and the fuel system needs properly hooked up. We need a new fuel pump. We need a lot of stuff still. So, a lot of work, but I still have to relish in the accomplishment of hearing this thing finally make some noise. After, let's see here, about 2 or 3 weeks of working on it on and off as I had parts, and probably like $800 invested, accounting for the trade and all that jazz. So, oh well, it's all in fun. Let's see if it'll run a little bit longer this time. I am a little scared because I don't have a kill switch hooked up, but I should be able to unhook that ignition coil if I have an issue. Or block off the carburetor too. Oh, is this going to just be a one-time thing? So it does work. The throttle's super janky, but I was trying to hold the tire still to see if the clutch would disengage and engage, and it definitely does, so that's good. Whew. Okay. I don't know what else I want to get done on it tonight. I might just relish in this for one night and come back at it tomorrow and replace the throttle and do a bunch of other stuff. So I think that's the plan. I gotta move a dead jet ski out of my yard because I do actually like my neighbors, and they might not like a 1996 Wave Raider just chilling in the center of my yard. And I actually have to mow tomorrow, so I think the rest of the night we'll be trying to figure out how to move this big piece of junk in this one. All right, so it's the next night, and we got a little bit done. We got our wiring all hooked up to the kill switch, which was pretty easy. Just patch the original wire up to the switch here and tested that, and it works. And then I also went ahead and ran a new cable, a cable that the guy gave me in the trade. And the throttle now returns, which I don't even know if I showed you guys, but the old cable would work. It just wouldn't return nicely. So we should officially be ready for a test drive. So I'm going to push it out in the yard and throw the chest camera on and see how it does. All right, so I'm not going to lie, I am quite scared of this thing. Just a little bit janky right now. I don't have an air filter on it, so it doesn't have the proper air-fuel mixture. I do have a rag over the intake to try and richen it up, or actually that would, yeah, that would richen it up. I don't know. And there's just a multitude of things that can go wrong, and you don't really have the opportunity to dump it over. You're just kind of along for the ride. And my lawn kind of does a at the end. So we're going to take her for a spin, don't get me wrong. I'm just a little scared. Yeah. So I'm going to start it up against the garage to make sure it doesn't take off into my neighbor's house. That would be scary. Haven't met those neighbors yet, and this would not be the way to do it. Okay, brakes don't really work, but we do have a handbrake. Woo! This thing's got the power. Okay, so I made it 2 laps around the yard. It seems like it's going to be an absolute blast, but I am waiting for the air filter to come in the mail and a fuel pump, and I really don't have enough room in my yard here, so we're going to wait a couple days for that stuff to come in the mail. Man, my back was getting hot leaning against that exhaust. No wonder there is a seat cover that goes there. Yeah, so I made it 2 laps around the yard. My yard is way too small for this thing. I don't want to be an idiot and run into my neighbors' houses or something. So I'm going to wait till I get all the right things here, and we will go ahead and take it to a place where you can actually test this thing. So it's been a few days since our test drive, and not much has changed. We got the seat back in, which is just the 4 bolts down there and there. I did have to pull the cage again, and I pulled the tank because, as you remember, we weren't getting any fuel through it. I ordered a new fuel filter, or fuel pump, but I think the issue was I just didn't have enough fuel into it, and the pickup is actually really high on this tank. I don't know if the internal part of the pickup's broken off, but if you fill it to about here, then it'll pick up fuel fine. So that's what we'll do, is we'll just keep a bunch of fuel in it, and it should have no problem. Now, I do have the air filter housing on it as well. We have all of the piping hooked up. We had to replace one clamp with a, hose clamp, which I don't like doing, but better than no clamp. And we got our filter over here, sunbathing on the back of the Ford. It just got oiled inside and out. Nice K&N uni filter. Sorry, uni, not K&N. Yeah, so we'll stab that in, and this thing will be really close. The last thing after that is just figuring out brakes. Yeah, train. Well, we made it to the testing grounds. We're in Spragueville, Iowa at Hanson Hollows. Pretty sweet place. You just give them $10 and they let you ride around all day. Pretty good for testing stuff like this. It's not registered with the state because all the state-run OHV parks need to have a title, and you have to pay all kinds of fees and get stickers, and yeah. This works well for stuff like that Odyssey that probably never had a title. All right, well, we made it. I have the place completely to myself, which is great in some ways, but kind of scary in case I break down. But the owner is here, of course, so I could always call him. Let's get this thing fired up, though. Woo! All right, I apologize in advance. The camera's gonna be really shaky, probably. Ew, this thing rips!
this thing's a lot quicker than I thought it was gonna be. Wow, camera's probably all over the place. I apologize. Oh yeah, it's got plenty of power. Oh, wow. The brakes definitely leave something to be desired, but I saw that coming. I adjusted them this morning, but I really should have replaced the pads and the cable. But we always have the handbrake in case if we need it. See if anything's falling off. This thing keeps coming undone. The freaking pull cord cover. I even Loctited them last time and they still want to come undone. Not good. Alright, we tightened the heck out of the cover. Now let's see what this thing's made to do. Lay in the sand. Oh, wow. What a blast. Well, it's been about 15 minutes and I already broke it. I was going through some tight sections back here and wasn't filming. And I wasn't even going fast at all. I was just coming around a turn, couldn't turn enough, and wedged a tree in here. Didn't think anything of it, pulled it back off the tree, took off, and now we can't steer that way. So I'll flip it up and show you guys what's bent. I already figured it out. So now I gotta limp it back to the truck with only one side to steer on and see if we can bend that back for today. If not, hopefully the other Odyssey has that part on it. We can fix it on up. Yeah, so that's supposed to be flat, that little guy. Cool. All right, here's a better look at the bend. So we got it parked against the back of my Ford here. I'm gonna try and get some channel locks or vice grips on it and see if we can get that bent around. I think we'll have to pull the tie rods off though first. All right, so to do this repair, you have to pop the 14 or 17 millimeter nut out of the steering wheel and then just drive the shaft down. It is splined to the steering wheel, so hopefully yours isn't stuck. But just lightly tap it down, and that gives you enough clearance to pop your tie rods out of here. Now this one doesn't want to come out because it's bent, so I'm gonna do a little bit of pre-work to get the tie rod out, and then we'll try and make it as perfect as possible. With a 15-inch nut rounder, did a pretty good job at getting it pretty decent. It's not perfect, but good enough. I think it'll last the rest of the day. So get a pop our tie rods back up in there and stab it back together and see if we can go for another ride. Also, check out the yellow under here. I wish this belly pan was this color on top. Have to find a set of yellow fenders for this thing ASAP. All right, we're gonna call that a wrap on the little Odyssey here. Man, this thing is a blast. So, from taking this thing from a basket case that we traded for like a $400 three-wheeler to running and having an absolute blast, I cannot be more happy. Now, it does need some minor work. I'm gonna try and beef up the steering somehow. Looks like we got that fixed pretty dang good. Good enough. The only other biggest issue that we have is these screws back here on the pull cover. They like to work themselves loose pretty much every 10 minutes or so. So I already Loctited them earlier this morning, but I'm going to go ahead and throw actual regular bolts in there so we can tighten them up, and some lock washers, and again, Loctite the heck out of them. Other than that, I am really happy with this thing. It is so much fun. I've always heard how much fun these things are, but I've never been around one. If you haven't been around one, go find a basket case on Facebook for cheap. They pop up pretty often. I always waited for a complete one because I didn't want to try and figure out how to put them back together, but they are super simple. If you can find a basket case that has all the parts for only a few $100, do it. I'm an idiot and I figured out how to put this thing back together. So that is going to wrap it up. That is not the end of the videos on this thing. We have at least one more video because next week I am taking this thing out to Silver Lake Sand Dunes in Michigan, where I think this thing is going to be an absolute blast. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We're going to take it out there with a few other toys and a couple of my buddies, and we're going to have a lot of fun, I think. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe, as it helps me out a lot. And I will see you guys on the next one.